Hello, collective. Everything's sort of precariously arranged right here, right now, and I feel like computer is gonna fall, the mic's gonna fall, but hopefully it won't. Happy full moon. I have been out of town for 5 days, and I have not had any of my decks. So, it's been like I'm like, I gotta get out and do a reading. Like I've felt it. It's been burning, burning. um. Anyway, I don't think this is particularly going to be a short reading. I haven't pulled a lot of decks to use. But I'm like, my friend's playing a gig in like an hour and a half, and so hopefully I'm not late. I think it's like a 2.5, maybe a 3 hour set. So I want to get this reading out and get it on the upload, so that it's uploaded by the time so that it's uploaded by the time I leave. Okay. If you want to fast forward, I'm gonna put some timestamps in the description box below. But I wanted to quickly talk about this. Like, okay, so I've got a new deck. Well, it's not new, it's old, but it's new for you guys. And I wanted to tell a story about this deck as I like bring my energy down a little bit. Da 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 da. All right. So this deck it's called the Prisma Visions Tarot. And this deck has a really, really, really special story, and it's very dear to my heart. So it's gonna be like a 2-minute story, but it's wild and supernatural, and I think everybody will find it quite interesting. So I got this deck. I was in uni. It was holiday, winter holiday, reading week they call it, I think. And oh, hold on, where's my vape? And I saw this deck like before, like maybe a couple of weeks before, and it was in a shop down in Melbourne. And at the time I was in uni, I was in Brisbane. For those of you that don't live in Australia, it looks like they're pretty close, but it's a long drive. So, and it was winter for us. And up north, it stays warm during winter, but when you go south in Australia, it actually does get cold, and we do get snow. So I decided I was going to take a road trip. I'm going to go see some mates in Geelong, and I'm going to pick up this tarot deck on my way down. And so I called the shop. They put it on hold for me, and I was camping, so I was in a swag. For the people who don't know what that is, because we don't use them a lot in North America, a swag is like a sleeping bag tent all in one. So I'm out, and it's a very outbacky thing to do. So I'm out. I'm like camping in my swag. It's like 2 degrees at night. I'm freezing my nads off. But I was enjoying it. Like, I grew up in Canada, so I can deal with the cold if I have to, but I don't like it. It's not my constitution. So I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm like sleeping on crates, and then I had like a rug in, and I'm like, oh my God, I just need to create like a thermal barrier. So I like lined my swag with aluminum foil every night. This top, this is what I'm wearing out tonight. I'm like, I think I'm missing a button. I need to get my girlfriend to snap it up for me at the back. Okay, so I make it down to Melbourne. I get into the city. It's like, I don't know, maybe 2:30 in the afternoon. The place that I need to pick the deck up is right dead set in the center of town, right at the main train station, like just at the building behind there. No parking, right? Downtown Melbourne. All of a sudden, like, all the vehicles start clearing, and I have no idea what's going on, but people are like frantically like leaving buildings, getting in their vehicles, and taking off. So I snag one of the car parks on the side of the road, and I jump out, and I start rushing towards the building, and somebody stops me and they're like, oh no, I think maybe manager of like one of the buildings around there. They're like, oh no, there's a fire at the train station or something. There's fire. No, there was a fire on the opposite side of the building. I think if you look in the news, you'll find out. I think it was a cafe on the other side of the train station. So anyway, this fire starts, and I don't think I think the shop closes at 4 or something like that. Like, it was really close to the time that the shop closed. And then I was in my tour, I was coming back a different way, so I wasn't going to be able to go through the city again and get the tarot deck. So the building catches on fire. I run up the stairs to the building, and the lady's like, you know, pulling some of the more expensive things, and like she's frantically like packing her stuff up. And I come in and I'm like, I put a tarot deck on hold, card deck on hold. Here's the cash, I need to grab it. And it wasn't a cheap deck. And so that's the story of how I got the deck. I wouldn't have made it because I wouldn't have been able to park in the city. Like, I would have had to park maybe about 5K out, take the train in, probably would have missed the whole thing. Anyways, a fire started so I could go pick up this tarot deck. Now, I had the tarot deck for probably 2.5, 3, maybe 4 years before I ever read the book. One day, like, see, you've got like the closed eye and then the open eye on the other side of the book. Now, I think I've talked a bit about my grandmother on the channel before. So my mom's mom was a very prolific psychic. She worked with the police. She was very well known. And we did a Reiki course when I was younger, and she was always like feeding me bits and pieces. Like, we go to a lot of like indigenous powwows, and she was always teaching me spirituality, but she never like sat me down and is like, here's how you read tarot cards. I just saw her. She read out of, like, she lived with us for a couple of years, 4 years when I was growing up, and she would have clients over and read in the backyard. So when I was a young girl, I saw her reading. And then as I got older, she took me to some of her friends, and I had readings done from some of her friends. Anyway, that grandmother ended up with really bad Alzheimer's, and she was sort of like cognitively deficient and like not speaking. She was in a home for many, many years. Now, she had been non-communicative and for 6 years. The last time that I saw her before she passed. The second last time that I saw her before she passed. And at this point, I had already moved to Australia. So I'd gone home, gone to see my grandma. And when I went to see her, as we were saying goodbye, like, I came up, I gave her a big hug. I told her I loved her. And she pulled away from me, looked into my eyes, and she had like cloudy eyes, you know, kind of what you expect when like there's not that sort of mental acuity there. Like, she probably had some cataracts as well, but in her eyes cleared up, and she leaned in and she said to me, "Now you know all you need to know." And those are the last words that my grandmother ever spoke to me. So I'm going to try not to tear up here. So then I get back to Australia, and it's like a couple of years later. I'm flipping through this book, and I love my grandma so much. I need to get it to you. And the book says, "Now you know all you need to know." And it's like, I don't even know what it means, but I know that it's super meaningful and it's super profound. And since that time, I went through my first spiritual awakening when I was like 14 or 15. And after that, I went through another spiritual awakening where, I had the vine and I could see the leaves. And so this is just like a super meaningful deck for me. And it's a very harsh deck. So, what do I mean by that? It's a deck that I don't take lightly, because I'm like, look at it, it's got all these gold foiled sides. It's such a beautiful deck. The swords cards are very brutal. So that's why I say it's a deck that I don't take lightly, because it's the most brutal depictions, I think, of the Seven of Swords, Five of Swords that I've ever seen. So I get a bit scared sometimes using this deck, but for some reason, like, I haven't had it in so long. It's been in my storage locker. I picked it up from my storage locker, I think, about a month ago. I cleansed it and I waited a full moon cycle to meditating on it until there was no fear of going back and using this deck and reading from it. So I'm gonna pull some. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna pull some cards from this deck for the collective. It's just. I don't know what the connection there is, and I don't know much about the artist. I'm gonna find out more about the deck and the cards. But I've always read tarot for myself, and I never thought that I would ever be like a public reader or like read professionally. Okay, we've got some cards that have come out, so let's take a look. Okay, we've got the Ten of Chalices. We've got the Magician. We've got the Five of Wands. We've got the Ace of Swords. And we've got the Three of Swords. I don't even know if I can. I know this. I'm reading for the collective. I mean, I made a commitment to read for the collective. So there is something here. So what's coming through for me is that this is when our cups are full, because the spark inside of us is always from us, right? Nobody can give. Our light is our own. Our flame is our own. And sure, other people can help us tend to that, but it is up to us to make love with life and make love with the universal spirit. So that's what the Ten of Chalices and the Magician here is. Now, the Five of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the Three of Swords talk about, this is like, the Ace of Swords can be about bringing clarity. It can also be about, like new fresh ideas about something, wiping something away. Not like, what do they, some of the Raider Wade, I think, says something about like clearing away in the guidebook. So the Five of Wands is about conflict normally, but here, these people almost look like they are working together to hold these logs up. So this is a very different sort of depiction of what you normally expect from a Five of Wands card. So kind of like the light seers, you know, again, these poles are like covered in like all these different things. It does remind me of neurons. And so I am getting a message here about mental support for washing away heartache or, you know, endings, transformations, that sort of message here. Okay. and now I'm like, okay, let's move to another deck. I'm not sure I'm up for this one anymore. I might pull another message from that deck. So the other deck that I picked up, I'm not doing a very good job here of reading for the collective because I'm like channeling and downloading, and a lot of it is actually about me. And yeah, so I'm trying to just give myself a bit of mental space here so that I can do some work for the collective. Take a breather. Sorry, I channel through, I think a lot of people do, but my spiritual connection comes from emotions. So emotions are my guide to my intuition. So that's how I can read people's thoughts. And if there's an emotional thread between, I can, that's my in, or that's the energy tube that I ride to use those gifts. Okay. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm like a little bit haphazard here. Sorry. I knew that that was going to make me a bit emotional because, yeah, but I didn't know that it was going to throw off the energy of the reading. But I've noticed a couple of other readers just in the last 2 days having difficulties reading, and also sort of struggling with like choppy messages and things like that. I haven't done any readings in the last 4 days. So, okay. I've got my own little handmade deck here, and this one is chakras. So full moon energy, culmination, we're full moon and Capricorn, I believe. So Capricorn is a sign of very much tenacity, stick with it. You know, Capricorns are the people who would push shit uphill and watch it roll down and keep pushing. They're very goal oriented, achievement oriented, big picture thinkers. So if that has been something that you have been intending since the new moon, then now is the time for settling in and opening up and allowing those manifestations to come through. So I've just got a couple of cards here that are about, I wanted to take a look at any potential blockages and what we can do so that we can allow those manifestations to flow through. And I pulled these two. I've got the heart and the crown, which is so great. Like, you know, it sucks when we get bogged down in like lower chakra stuff, and that has been happening for a lot in the last sort of year and a half. So I'm really happy to see some of these working through some of the upper chakra stuff now. So this is a beautiful, I'm really, really happy with this progress. Okay, so what we have here with the heart chakra is where I feel pain is where I need to expand and listen to my heart. In pain and to love, therefore to know forgiveness. And the second was the crown chakra. I am beyond space and time. I just messaged one of my twin earlier today, and it was talking about there's lack of space-time being real. So anywho, that's interesting. Now I've pulled two of our healing it through darkness, shadow work. And I got two cards, so let me share them with you first. The first one is Resilience. It says centered through harmony and chaos, number 44, which is interesting because we did have a 44 come up the other day. What was it? Numerology. I think it was a day number, 44. Was that yesterday? Judgment. And then the second one was Judgment. When all sides are equal, the path of liberated wisdom appears. Okay, so what happened was when I pulled these, I intended on pulling them matching so that we could match the challenge and the shadow work up with the chakra. But what I was told was that I needed to actually read both for both. All right. So I do think that there's probably a bit more weight, but that might just be for me personally. So let's just start with Resilience, centered through harmony and chaos. So the heart chakra said, when I feel pain, or where I feel pain is where I need to expand and listen to my heart in pain and to love, therefore to know forgiveness. So forgiveness is not something that is, forgiveness is something that's continuous. And especially when hurts haven't been healed, right? So when hurts have been tended to, when the pain of another from an interaction has been tended to, and both people have turned up to allow the healing to take place in the ethereal body, then you can, once the wound is gone and it's like hurt can be dissipated so that it is gone forever, so that it doesn't resurface. But that is not an easy task, and most of us will resurface pains because they're connected to other ways that we have experienced life since that pain, right? So in order for something to completely go away or like it had never happened is to essentially go back to the point of the space-time of that, and then to relive all of those moments back up to the previous moment without seeing things through the eyes of that hurt, without experiencing the world through that lens, and experiencing it through the healed lens. And if you're somebody that has had childhood trauma, that task can take a long time. So I spent 6 months in silence in India meditating, 14-hour sits a day for like 6 months. This is like 10 years ago now, but and Vipassana is really great for this because the work will get done on its own. Like, we don't have to actually go back to that period of time. And then, like, that is one way, and psychology uses that. Like, regression therapy uses that, where you go back and you start unpacking and then working through and then stepping through your life, seeing things and reframing things through that new lens. However, Vipassana is something that allows us to do that without it being a conscious process, because we're observing the pain in the body and then naturally allowing it to release. And as it releases, it's impacting the whole etheric body. And so we can have that repatterning happen. Unconsciously. So, Vipassana is a great technique. I don't know where I was going with that. And there's, if you've never been to a Vipassana center, I highly recommend going and doing the 10-day sit. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done if you've never done it before, potentially. There's a couple things that I've done in my life that I thought would be easy, and they were the hardest things that I had ever done. The first one was, I was a power lifter in uni, and I broke my back. And, I fully dislocated my spine. And I was in traction. After that, I was did yoga, and I always thought that yoga was for wimps because my mom is a very tiny, tiny woman. And she's very petite and delicate, and she does yoga. And I was much more like, nah, I'm a Viking, and into my extreme sports. So when I first did a Bikram yoga, I signed up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 2 classes a day. I think it was a 30-day challenge. And if you did 2 classes a day for 30 days, you got it for free. And I was a uni student, and I had just broken my back. I did not have the money to pay. I'm like, I have to go so that I can get this free 30-day pass. So I did. And it was, it was probably about 4 months after I got out of traction, maybe 3.5 months after I got out of traction. It was the hardest thing that I had done because I had the worst sciatica. And so forcing myself, but I ended up healing my back trauma. And even I don't powerlift anymore, but I can hold my own, and I can still play, do extreme sports. And the only thing I really struggle with is heavy rotations and inversions, snowboarding, where you really have to whip yourself around. But because the rotational thing, but even then, I do struggle a little bit with 360s now. I can pull them. I can pull them. But yeah, so, where am I going with this? Oh, just so forgiveness is continual. And we need to be centered through harmony and chaos. Now, when we haven't had the chance to sit down and have those heartfelt and heart-centered conversations and to actually do the healing, because even if the other person turns up, if they're not authentic, if they're not authentically present with you there, and they're not willing to open their heart to your suffering, then the etheric connection doesn't get made. And so you can sit in front of somebody, and if they aren't open to healing something with you, then the trauma can remain. They can say, I'm sorry, and it doesn't mean anything. You know when something is a heartfelt apology and when something isn't, and it does make a difference. Like it's like no doubt about it. Forgiving myself right now for still vaping. So, and I'm on the spectrum, right? I've got ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. I have Asperger's, very high functioning. But I do, because of my autism, I have struggled with forgiveness in the past. Like, I was probably quite stunted with forgiveness. So there's a silly story I like to tell about when, like, a friend in high school, my best friend, stole my mechanical pencil that I used for drafting class, and he lied to me and told me he didn't know where it was. And I had been searching. Everybody in the school knew me. I was this social convener, and I sat on students council. I was a vice president, I think, at the time. So everybody in the school knew that I was looking for this stupid pencil. And I walked by his math class, and he's in his class with my bloody pencil. So I walked in, grabbed the pen, and not even into my own class, his class, grabbed the pencil, and then he saw me later at lunch, and I said, I will never be friends with you again because you betrayed me. And that was that. That was the end of our friendship. And we had been so close, right? Like camping trips. We used to go fishing together, play chess together. Like, he was my best friend. And, I guess when you're that young, it's like he had been my best friend for 2 years. But yeah, we had been probably besties for about 2.5 years. And that was it. I'm like, nope, I will not be friends with him. I'm not going to forgive him. And I never did. And probably, my loss, right? Because I didn't learn how I didn't learn how to forgive him. Like, I knew that he did something that purposely violated me, and he knew that because my dad was a mechanical engineer, and my dad gave me that drafting pencil for my first tech class, and so he knew that it was meaningful to me. And yeah, so but I forgive him now. So working through forgiveness it's just continuous, right? Because you can't deny yourself what you experienced and what you went through and how it made you feel. And looking at some of the Christian literature has been really good for me to solidify my understanding of forgiveness, because when we sit in hurt, we manifest more hurt. And so we really do need to forgive. It doesn't mean that we can't get retribution, we can't also seek out justice, but forgiveness and understanding that we all make mistakes. And that for me has been the key to my own forgiveness, especially over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, like seeing my own fallacies and seeing my own hypocrisy. And I'm on my journey as well, and we all are, and just constantly realizing that what is external to us is there for us as a mirror. And every time you don't forgive and you deny an aspect of your external reality, you're denying an aspect of what's inside. And so I'd commented on another one of my, a reader that I quite enjoy. I think it was just last week, but I've been spending a lot of time thinking about how we can stop war, stop the production of weapons of mass destruction, and even other things like stop packaging things in, like, why do we need something packaged in a package, each individually packaged in another package that's then cellophane packaged, put it in a box and pack? Like, we're ruining the environment, and we have to start making decisions to not allow the things that we don't want to experience in our reality. But it's a collective thing, right? So how can we, especially us, especially people who consider themselves light workers, how can we go about working with collective consciousness so that we can alleviate the need for war, we can alleviate the need for power structures, we can start moving towards some of these values that we actually want to be living. And so forgiveness comes in to that as well. Like, we need to forgive ourselves for what we're seeing in our external reality. There's some group meditations, and I've never joined in on any of them, but I know that there is a group that meditates for world peace, and they do it at the same time. And I think they do some intensives where they'll do like a week or 30 days. And doesn't matter where you are in the world, you might have to get up at 2 a.m. to meditate. But I think that is super powerful. Well, I know it's super powerful because when I regularly meditate with people, I know when they're meditating, right? It's like some of my good friends, I can like text them at 2 minutes after they finish their meditation because I've been in the car, not consciously trying to connect with them, but because I'm sort of lucid, I'm getting the download, and it's like, oh, so-and-so's meditating, so-and-so's jerking off, which isn't always my intention of tuning into those energies, but you can connect with people. So that is one way that I think those collective meditations and collective intention settings are really powerful. And I would like to start working with a group of women who want to do some global work together, as in we work with ley lines, we work with the astrology, and we start doing, like, I am a fire sign. I think that the Indigenous are going to allow me to work with fire. I already run fire ops here in Australia. I shouldn't say I run them, but I work in the Savannah burning space and support Indigenous rangers to do fire burning here. So I think that I might get elders' approval to do some burning, and I would like to start working with divine feminine energy globally and start doing sacred burning at certain times for unconditional love and global peace. But we have to when we go into those ceremonies, we have to go in with that clear heart. And it doesn't mean dropping all of our baggage forever, which would be great if we could do it, but sometimes we need to drop our baggage temporarily in order to be able to have positive external change, which then actually helps us because we don't pick up as much baggage. We have good positive change, positive reinforcement from the universe, and then we don't have to pick up as much baggage when we take a step back. So that's what I have to say with resilience there with regards to the heart chakra. So with regards to the heart chakra and resilience here, and I am beyond space and time. So I'll just talk about the challenge that I was having. So I've had two in the last 10 years. I've had two soulmate relationships, as in like knowledge of previous past lives. And then and one of those soulmates, we had a bit of like karma. I pretty sure he was my brother in Egypt, and I killed him so that I could rule because I didn't see him as being competent, and I think he was elder, or I don't know whether he was elder or not. No, I was a man, so he must have been elder. Yeah, so that was somebody that I had been in a serious long-term relationship with. And so we worked through karma from that life, and then karma from another life where we had been, I don't know, Nepalese or something like that, where I was female in that life. I married him, and then because he couldn't produce me a child, his mom married me his younger brother, and I had a child straight away. And then he thought that I loved his brother more, so then he left, but that wasn't the case. Anyway, so the challenge that I've been having here is the dichotomy between, yes, we are beyond space and time, but as physical people, like, we either just jostle around, like, we're either like balls just bumping into things unconsciously, or we understand the spiritual laws of the universe and we're able to use this physical embodiment as a way to get back to wholeness, right? So we don't come from physicality, we're unphysical vibration. And then as we form into physical beings, that they say that like Lucifer comes in, right? Like the devil only is in this realm. And most traditions believe that it's very difficult to reach enlightenment when you're embodied, because we're subject to trauma and samsara, and I think, do the Buddhists call it dukkha? I think maybe suffering. So yes, so the challenge for me has been the dichotomy of, bridging that 3D, 5D. I'd say before I had my twin flame experience, which was just about 2 years ago, let's just say, in the realm of 2 years ago, I was in 5D most of the time, right? I was lively, joyful. I must have suppressed a lot of my trauma because it wasn't part of my experience, like my day-to-day experience. Like, people would say, like, what do you think about Riley? And I'm sure people would say, oh, she's bubbly, she's always happy, she's always pitching in, she's, you know, always up. If whenever people need her, she's there. And then after my twin flame separation, I had to learn. The Queen of Swords is probably the queen that I least connect with, and that was the embodiment that I ended up in. And so I had to learn to embrace the Queen of Swords through the shadow, which has been, and it still is, like, I'm still working through that process, but a very challenging, that sort of high level shadow work, and seeing things that, like, so as a child, I think I wasn't much of a dissociator, but I was probably taught, because my mom was sort of a pacifist, like, just keep everything happy, keep the image of the family, keep, we don't want the external world to know what's really going on in our family, or that there's problems, or very much an image conscious person, whereas I'm like much more real. Let things be how they are. And there is a healthy balance there, right? Because I pushed against my mom's idea of having a facade, and I went the other way, where for like my later teenage and my early 20s, like, I was like, everything was out on the table, right? I would talk about any trauma, anything, like, I like didn't have the appropriate boundaries, because I sort of swung back the other way as a reaction to. So balancing 3D and 5D. So we need to, well, there is no needs here. When all sides are equal, the path of liberated wisdom appears. So balancing, we can't reject either one of us, right? So they're both, we are whole, we are love, we are unity, and we are sovereign, and the dichotomy of those two exist. And so this resilience card here is about when we're working with our crown chakra. If we're struggling to connect to universal consciousness, then the technique there is then to we start with the forgiveness of the heart. We learn that we learn to forgive, we intend for it to be forever, but we accept that even if we only can forgive for a short while to come into that space of universal love, that then we have the ability to, with our crown chakra, move up and start working, using spirit to help with some of the trauma in the physical. Okay, now let's move on to judgment. And then I'll pull a couple more cards, and then we'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's start with crown chakra. Heart chakra, judgment. I need to get this top snapped up at the back. It's annoying me. Okay. When all sides are equal, the path of liberated wisdom appears. So, this is, I love when you sort of see these resonance images. So I wasn't even looking at this card when I was talking about, so, the earth manifest, and like you see these two hands and they're sort of like holding the two things simultaneously, like the earth and then the spirit. So this is like a confirmation for me about that the downloads that I was getting are the downloads that we really needed to. So I don't know that I have a whole lot more to say about that. So we need to be able to hold those two things, the dichotomy of the two, in this sort of space of suspended, almost disbelief. You have to hold both values. You have to believe both things. But if you do believe both things, the spiritual being, universal love, unity of all, and you believe that we are sovereign, and then you can hold the two beliefs simultaneously, and that is how we're able to. And like, we've got the cross here, right? So like this is where we are able to access that level of Christ consciousness. And I'm not going to be banging on about Christian values, but Christ consciousness just means unconditional love. And Jesus was somebody who spoke about love and forgiveness and acceptance of all. And so that's what I mean by that. Okay, so now let's go to judgment and the crown chakra. Look, I kind of talked about those in unison, so I feel like I've said everything that I need to relay there with those messages. Okay, I am going to pull one more card here. So, as we come out of this full moon into our waning moon, the full moon is sort of the peak, the peak of our manifestation. And I did say that at the end of the year, I plan on running a short course, which will be likely done through Patreon. I'm not quite sure, about using the moon cycles with our personal charts for spiritual growth and development. Ooh, we've got the Four of Wands coming out as I said that. So this is really a message here, I suppose, for the collective. I started this channel because I wanted to, and I am going to update the intro because I know that one's so dodgy on the home channel. I've started editing it already, so that'll be done very soon. I started this channel because I wanted to pull together a group of light workers so that we could actually start learning from each other and working in unison. And one of the things that I realized is like, we're already doing that, but I don't know. I wanted to formalize it, or I'm still working on, like, because we do already do that. So what is the difference to what I want to do? I think I want to start a proper galactic council. My grandma, the tarot reader, has sat on the Galactic Council in the past, and her spirit is still largely with that. So I do think I want to coordinate, not lead in any way at all, but coordinate a galactic council for other starseeds, and happy to represent Pleiadian and Andromedan. And we'll see. I've got a fair history there, because I've got pretty deep access to my Akashic records, but I think that there's other people that will probably resonate with some of those other starseed constellations more than I do. Like, I'm here right now on a Pleiadian mission, but I've also got some Andromeda and stuff that I'm working on as well. But where I was coming up, so I pulled this Four of Wands card, which is our portal card, and the reason why I want to do the moon course is because let's start using the tools. Like, I have been a casual student of astrology for like 20 years, as in I learn about astrology, new things, about 10 to 15 minutes a day. But I've been doing that for 20 years. So I've definitely put in my hours and I have done some deep dives, but I don't apply it. Like, I don't wake up every day and check the moon cycle. I have like some nodal transits of importance over the next couple of months. So I have been lately like just checking where the node is and how close it's getting to a couple of my planets. But this is a tool that we can use, and the more tools that we have in our belt and that we're using together collectively, the quicker and easier we're gonna have it of bringing in the new earth and, you know, pulling our loved ones up with us. And it really is, that is how we do it, right? There is an energetic, and I want to teach that meditation. I think I will teach it at the end of 2026. But there is a way that we can assist others with making the transition, and it comes, like, for me, like I said, I connect through the emotions. So there is a way that we can assist and help our loved ones that are struggling, and even the earth as a whole, to lock, using a lot of the yogic locks. We can use those locks and breath work to assist in raising the collective consciousness. And it's a very powerful, it was a download that I was given about what my role is in assisting collective consciousness. And it's actually something that I was told that it's a practice that I need to do while I'm dying, is what I got. So that's pretty powerful, but I think it's also something that we can do when we're not dying, because we're dying hundreds of times a second, millions of times a second. So when we realize that, and, you know, that comes back to this beyond, you know, I'm beyond space-time. When we realize that, and we realize that we're dying millions of times a second at the Planck scale, then we can use that as a tool for continuously shifting consciousness, and individually and collectively. Okay. Now the other deck that I pulled, this is the deck that I used to use to do all of my love readings. So I did read in the past. I used to have a little like tarot. I used to do like pop-up tarot at music festivals and spiritual workshops, and I had some clients that would come to me, and this is the deck that I used to use for doing all of my love readings when everybody had relationship questions. So it is, I don't know what it is called, but it is, I think it's just Anakai. And why do I use this deck for my love readings? Because it's a bit gentler. Unlike this deck where the swords are, you know, the energy is intense with the swords in this deck, and like the cups probably not on the same level, so the deck does feel a little imbalanced in that way. Like it really emphasizes the negative aspect of the swords without overly emphasizing the positive aspect of cups. Whereas this deck, I feel it touches more on the less on shadow work, more on light aspects of each card, and cups definitely seem to dominate over swords, I suppose, or even over earth in this. So it tends to give easier to handle love messages. What does the deck think about that? The Tower. Maybe it's not going to continue to do so. Anyways, when I got this deck back, I did only cleanse it for a half moon cycle, and I pulled it out, and I hadn't, like I said, these have been in storage for a number of years. 4 years, I think. 4 years these have been in storage. And I pulled it out and did a love reading for myself, and dead on answers. So maybe this is saying to me, I've got the King of Cups here on the bottom of the deck, that this deck is going to be very, I find it to be a very truthful and honest deck. All right, let's put the Tower back in. What can the collective do? What should the collective be focusing on to continue to manifest through the waning aspect of this moon cycle as we prepare for our next new moon? So that's the rhythms of connecting those new moons and full moons in our chart is so beneficial to our personal growth. So when we understand that we are setting intentions that then manifest at a later date when we have the full moon, then we can start to understand how to work with those moon cycles for healing through each of our houses. All right. Okay. Oh, actually, you know what? That's interesting. That was almost an unconscious pull, which is strange. It didn't jump out. I don't always. I think I have said, like one of the I see these other tarot readers and they shuffle, and like they're the sloppiest shufflers ever. I was a poker player, and because I was a poker player, you do never let cards fall on the table when you're shuffling. So it's a different type of shuffle, I suppose. But how I pull cards is when I'm shuffling, I usually get light surrounding a card that it's asking me to pull. And then that's the card that you might be a corner stick out here or there. And I'm like, that's the one. All right. So we have got the Four of Swords, and it came out in reverse. So the Four of Swords is about breast rejuvenation and recuperation. And the Two of Cups is obviously about that love and romance, that partnership. So the Four of Swords in reverse here is telling me that two things. One, that there's not been healing around a partnership, but then also there's a second message that came up, and that is that because that healing has not happened yet, that now is not the time. That seems like a bit of how can, like, if healing needs to happen but it hasn't happened yet, how if we have to wait for the healing to occur in order to move forward, but the healing hasn't happened, therefore we can't move forward, leaves us in a very, very stuck spot. So what we needed to do here is there's been anxiety over options with the Seven of Cups, with too many options, but also with anxiety over illusions. So, which is really interesting. You know, Capricorn for me has always been very much like, I use, like, it's a sign much more about like my goal, like physical, like fitness goals and like business goals, and so, but I am using the love deck. So let's see if we can get a message that doesn't pertain to love. Of course, love is in everything that we do. So let's also take a look, and rather than me pulling more cards, like, let's actually look at this as though it wasn't a love situation, right? So I've got a business situation right now. I run a couple of different businesses, but one of them's been on the back burner for a little bit longer than I'd like, and I probably think it's going to be there for another 3 months or so, which is frustrating, but because I want to get things going. Oh, there we go. You know, I'm saying that there's partnership, you know, rest and rejuvenation is something, and I'm saying, I'm getting frustrated. So, the remedy is to look at our anxiety about either the illusion or the options, or so for me in this particular business situation, you know, I know exactly what this is saying. Like, one of the business partners doesn't have the capacity to come in, and so we sort of have to wait till that person is ready to pick up the slack and come join the business so we can continue on. So it's about alleviating anxiety around that. It's about, you know, how can I maybe go about working, like, ideally, if we're in a restful period, sorry, I'm pulled the wrong card here. If we're in a restful period, then rest, because the Four of Swords is the card of the sarcophagus, and the sarcophagus was what the knights used to have to go into until they had a spiritual awakening. And they could be of service, figure out what the right way to be of service was to the king or the emperor. So right now, if we're not there, then with the business partnership, we need to take this Four of Swords and actually flip it around. So we need to allow ourselves to go through that dark night of the soul for that business, and processing that is going to be about looking at anxieties and looking at our illusions with regards to that, you know, business situation or opportunity. And let's see if I can draw one more card here. I'm going to actually go back to this deck. So with regards to, you know, whether it be a love situation or non-love situation. So here we got the Three of Pentacles in reverse that came out. The Three of Pentacles is about building, and it's about contracts, and it's about, yeah, so sort of fine-tuning those contracts. So, you know, when you've got a contract, you know, before it gets signed off on it, you go and make sure that the contract was fulfilled in the correct way. And so you're sort of like ticking and flicking and looking through, and has the contract been fulfilled? And if it has, then tick it off, and, you know, the person gets their payment. So I'm just looking here because I want to get a message. Like, I want to read deeper into from this deck. What is this deck telling me in particular about the Three of Pentacles in reverse? So this gentleman has the window in the frame, and he is building the foundation around the window. And that's not a very good not a very good method of building. Normally people build with a frame for the window, and the window is the last thing to go in after the foundation has been built. So the window here seems out of place, right? It's just sort of, there's no point and no purpose to that window right now. The window is something that we use to see beyond ourselves. If the house is ourself, a window is something that we use to see out into the external world. So with the Three of Pentacles coming up in reverse, there is a message here about 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 on the timer. There is a message here about looking through or wanting a window before our own house is built, or our own, the stability within ourselves is there to have that external reflection for us. So if you're going through a business partnership or whatever it may be, that is the current suggested way to work with that energy right now, and to use that in our moon cycle to realize that we actually have to go back to that Four of Swords, move it from reversed into an upright, and get our foundation built before we're looking for that external mirror and reflection. And that ties in really, really well with these cards that we pulled for Healing the Shadow about, resilience and judgment. When we're using the law of attraction, we want to see things just like immediately appearing in our external reality for validation. And it becomes a codependency on the law of attraction in and of itself. And it can perpetuate those, I don't know what I want to call them, malignant attachment styles, because faith is about not needing to see the external validation straight away. So there is an aspect here of trusting the universe and to continue pushing forward with our practices and with using the spiritual laws, whether or not our external reality is currently mirroring and reflecting back our use of working through those spiritual laws. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great full moon, and I am really excited. I will be inviting people. I am running an 8-week shadow course, and I shouldn't say that. I'm helping facilitate an 8-week shadow course. And so if anybody is interested, I have a Discord group, and people who are working through the materials are free. So there is a group sitting that is paid, but that's in person, so that's not going to really work. But anybody who wants to join the Discord group and have the materials and work through their challenges and post and really dive in and get deep into that shadow work, feel free to email me. if you can't find my email on this, click around and click around on the channel. It's out there. It's actually my handle at gmail.com. So if you're interested, oh, and I am opening up personal readings. So I've got 3 weeks coming up. 4 weeks, but one I'm taking for personal, where I'm taking like a leave of absence at work. So to do this shadow work, to start doing some of the shadow work. So I am going to be opening up personal readings, but I have a preference for people who are interested in doing a birth chart analysis, looking at current transits, and working a bit with tarot, attachment styles, and personality typing to kind of get an idea of where they're at. So I do offer a package. I think it's normally $420, and it's about 10 hours worth of work going through that. So if you don't know how to read your birth chart, you don't understand the meanings or how transits play in, we can work on that. I don't want to take on more than 3 clients, so I do one a week. Alternately, if there's any couples that are looking for couples therapy or want to engage me in using astrology and psychology and tarot to do some couples therapy, I do. I've done working with postnatal and also post hysterectomy with couples in the past, working on intimacy. So if that's been a challenge for you and your partner, whether you're postpartum or have recently gone through any surgeries, I also help couples where the male is experiencing ED. So if there's anybody that needs help working on intimacy issues, then I'd be happy to work on that. I will book up to 10 people for the short reading. So if you want a $45 20-minute tarot reading, how they work is you send me the question, I do the reading, and I upload it to the website, but it's a private link, and then I send you the link, and you can then download that. After a month, I pull them because even though it's private, anybody with the link, so over time, so I don't like to leave them up for long. So if you do want a short reading, I'm going to book a maximum of 10 of those. They're $45, and they're good for short updates. So things sort of what's happening in the next 2 weeks, maybe the next month, but I wouldn't go much beyond that because it's shorter. I'm not calling as much energy in. It's a $45 read, right? So those are the options. They will open. So I'm just taking. They're gonna open on the retrograde. What sort of tarot reader am I? Opening up personal readings on the day of the retrograde. So on the 19th. If you're interested in one of those readings, please email me and I will get back to you on the 20th or the 21st and let you know, and I can send you links to my payment methods. All right, guys. Hope you're having a good one. Take care.